Hi, I'm Dr. Abie Mendelsohn. Gender-affirming surgery is so much more than just a medical procedure. It's a result of personal journey, resilience, and transformation. We would like to learn directly from gender-diverse individuals as they share their experiences, challenges, and hopes. As such, we present their voices.
Hello, and welcome to episode 8. This is a takeover of Their Voices, where we will be interviewing Dr. Abie Mendelsohn. Good?
Yeah, I love that.
Does that work out?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I like to be in that seat usually. Get the attention away from me.
It's not going to happen today.
I'm not a fan.
Right? Doctor to doctor.
Let's go, Doc.
Okay. So for those that don't know who I am, because I'm always in the background.
That's true.
Doing some business and strategy consulting for you.
Yes, making this all happen.
We try. We try to make it happen in the most efficient way possible.
Appreciate that.
But I think that the audience really wants to get to know you and all the things that make Abie Abie.
I reluctantly agree.
Okay.
I'm not super comfortable with this again,
but
we're gonna be all right.
It'll get easier
We're gonna be good
as we go through all these. I have 100 questions. I'm just kidding.
Let's rock.
Let's start off with the first question. You know, from the words of Zoolander, who are you? Who is Abie?
Blue steel.
I like that.
Thank you.
Blue steel.
Who am I? I have so many things that define me. First and foremost, father and husband. That's where it all stems from. Tried to be the best human I can be. I love what I get to do professionally. I feel that I've somewhat cheated my way into something that really isn't work. It's really a passion. It's really something that, I'm just very fortunate to be in the operating room, in the office, getting to know people who sometimes are at a really bad place in their life. Sometimes just a little nudge, get that postnasal drip in there, get that voice a little tuned up a little bit. And then, what we get to do as we're thinking about this episode, really what has grown into be such an amazingly important part of my professional life, which is that gender-affirming care. So it's kind of like all this.
You're a lot.
I'm a lot.
But
a lot
we
to
love
handle.
it.
Yeah.
We love it.
It's never boring.
So what is a laryngologist?
Wow. It's funny. I actually had no idea for a long time. But a laryngologist, when we think about ENT or ear, nose, and throat, the scientific name for that is otolaryngology, which is a difficult thing to spell or say. Broken up, it's supposed to be actually otorhinolaryngology, which is oto, which is the ears, rhino, which is the nose, and laryngology, which is really anything within the throat. And so when subdividing that after training, you can go into any of those or really just about anything that suits your passion. I am absolutely enthralled with how complex the throat, specifically the voice, is in terms of its production, the role it plays with us in terms of how it just allows us to be human. And so it's just a passion of mine to be the guy to go to for anything related to the voice. And so a laryngologist really is a surgeon that focuses on voice disorders.
So how long have you been doing this?
Ooh.
Let's not age you now.
Yeah, exactly.
He's 20.
Plus a little bit. I tripped over ENT or otolaryngology in med school. I had no idea that this was even a subspecialty of surgery. And so that was, early 2000s when I first discovered this. And it really was within the early exploration within this field, doing the research within voice disorders, that it was just to open my eyes and open that road. So, what are we, 2026 at this point? So, 20 years.
So you got some feet in the game.
Yeah, a couple grays on that.
Right? But Silver Fox.
It's,
We'll take it. So let's transition to talk a little bit about your team.
Yes.
Because you have a nice group of people around you. So why is a multidisciplinary team important to have?
Yeah. The human body is so fantastic. The more, even if, you're not interested in medicine, just to see how the most basic systems interact in the human body is something that you can't stop but just be amazed at how it's actually possible. So if I'm going to be primarily focused on voice disorders, regardless of where they've come from, those voice disorders, it doesn't work with just thinking about those. It can't. It's impossible. It's just logic. It doesn't require medical training. And so if I'm going to do the best for my patients, I understand I will do what I can do the best, but it has to be so many people in addition to that. And that includes different medical specialties. That includes things that are outside specific medical training, like speech-language pathology. It requires an understanding of holistic medicine. We have to understand what is outside of Western medicine. And then we think about what makes medicine work. We think about all the people who are there to answer a telephone, which, strangely enough, is one of the more difficult tasks within care. If anyone has tried to make an appointment at any office, answering the telephone, putting through authorizations, making sure that insurance can actually cover the care that's necessary. All of these things require layers upon layers. And so, yes, I get to be the face of so much that happens, but it's only built on an enormous pyramid of people and talent.
Right. And in the previous episode, you were interviewing Allie, who is an SLP that you work with.
Yes.
So tell me about that relationship.
Basically, I would say, traditionally speaking, laryngology and SLP was a very separate thing. We are surgeons, and you guys, I don't know, you just do whatever it is behind closed doors. We don't need to know what's going on there. And, eventually with the patient kind of ping-ponging back and forth between getting the camera examined by me and then going for whatever voice therapy this black box was, eventually you would, quote unquote, fix a patient. And so that was a very textbook, antiquated view of how to address and understand voice problems. Thankfully, I was trained at UCLA, which understood that is the exact opposite of what needs to happen. Ability to work together with a voice therapist to come and achieve a plan that both of those people are going to agree. First of all, what's the underlying diagnosis? What are we trying to treat? How can we treat that? When does one person's treatment complement the other person's treatment? It only works if you have that relationship, if you have the ability to really send a call, email, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going off. If you're just writing a prescription saying best of luck, if you're lucky, it could work, but it's not a great strategy. And so that relationship, to find people who you can connect with, that you agree with, not only medically, but philosophically,
Right.
is so critical.
So that collaborative approach is...
It has to happen. And a lot of times it can't. There are so many barriers, not only for gender-affirming care, but really across the board throughout medical diagnosis and treatments. There's so many barriers to care that sometimes by the time the person gets to their quote-unquote assigned SLP, wherever they need to go for their voice disorders, that relationship isn't there. And while it can work out, it's certainly not the best.
Yeah. So these barriers that you talk about,
Yes.
there's a lot of them.
Yes.
And I think in healthcare in general, there's a lot of red tape. Do you mind maybe shedding some light on some of those barriers you find yourself coming across as a physician?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, an important disclaimer, I am very pampered and spoiled. So usually I don't even know about the obstacles. I say what I want and then I walk away and it magically happens. Now, obviously it doesn't magically happen.
Right.
I have a team of amazing, amazing physician assistants and nurse practitioners I get to work with. Having literally them doing things that I don't even know what they're doing because I'm off doing a million other things and I'm easily distracted.
You are doing amazing work, though.
Oh, yeah. Incredible. Those obstacles, a lot of times, are simply very much a practical issue, just getting the person the information that is already there. So everything's set up. The patient doesn't know what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to go, who they're supposed to call. So that's an information barrier, which really can be improved by communication, not within the multi-specialty team, but within the provider to the patient. That is probably something that when I was practicing within a larger institution was a very large and really underappreciated barrier when you think about how patients were not being appropriately treated. Now having that team, that barrier is improved. That being said, we need to do better. We're always looking for ways to do better. Obviously, email is an important advent, but some people are not comfortable with using email. And so not having that immediate communication can continue to be a barrier. Financial/insurance barriers, major issues. Again, very spoiled. I have an incredible team. I have an incredible surgical director, as you know, who really just takes care of all of these issues. And the few that I hear about, whether it's a peer-to-peer phone call with an insurance doctor who wants to talk about why I want to do what I want to do, it's usually a pretty short phone call, but it requires someone to actually put in that paperwork, to request it, to schedule that phone call. Obviously, I have to do the hard work of actually picking up the telephone. I know. It's amazing.
It's rough.
It's amazing. I know. But it's one of those things where that's a massive barrier. And unless you have the bandwidth and the ability and you have the people willing to do that, because it is painful and it's painful by design to allow that process to proceed. So there are those absolutely. And then there's legal and political concerns, which we're still figuring out. We don't know what those are. So we're seeing, again, from a gender-affirming standpoint, we're seeing things like Children's Hospital closing their entire program. Was that legal in terms of their concerns? I don't know. It certainly was political, meaning the political pressure that was placed on that institution to close their gender-affirming program, certainly not without, a lot of thought behind that, but those are real concerns. And so when we're thinking about how we're going to continue our important work, those ramifications are there. They're a barrier. And then there are so many other, as you think about individual needs and barriers that each person, whether it's geographic, there's cultural difference, cultural divide, language barriers, so many barriers. But it's on us to really address each and every one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And to go back to, you were talking about the peer-to-peer calls.
Oh my God.
So there is a lot of trending on Instagram, TikTok with doctors actually recording themselves do these peer-to-peer calls. They sound kind of painful.
I'm a fan.
They sound kind of painful.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really you advocating for your patient.
Yeah, it really is. But it's first and foremost, it's emotionally challenging for lots of physicians, particularly surgeons, because we are, shall we say, bred to have an inflated sense of our time. Mm-hmm. Let's just put it that way.
Just say it.
I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, it's like, oh, my time. Mm-hmm. So for, first of all, just that drain on our time, which, given a particular day, depending on the schedule, there actually aren't those minutes. There actually aren't those minutes. Yeah. I wouldn't say like 7 days a week, entire year goes by that I don't have 3 minutes to take a phone call, but sometimes you don't have the ability to schedule it at a convenient time. That's first and foremost, just a very practical standpoint. So yeah, those videos on TikTok where you're gonna see a surgeon scrubbing out of surgery to take these phone calls, that's not unrealistic. That is not false. Mm-hmm. And that's insane. So now the person that you scrubbed out is not getting expedited surgical care. How do you juggle that? Right. Who gets your time? Secondly, who's on the other line of that phone call? Sometimes it's a surgeon who has done the surgery that you're even discussing. Okay. Most of the time, not. Yeah. So now you take all of that emotional baggage from that phone call, and then you're going to have a conversation with someone who doesn't know or has no experience regarding this. And then lastly, you're having this phone call, and then all of a sudden they're saying, well, I need, X document or Y lab results. And then you're just like, it's right there in front of you.
Right.
And like, oh, okay, thank you for calling. And that's it. And so
What a
it's
waste of the
literally
conversation.
it's a hoop to jump through.
Yeah.
And at this point, attention needs to be brought to this. And I love those videos.
Yeah, the videos are great. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
And kind of to move into how we can support the patient and what they can kind of expect. What should they be looking for when they're on their journey to gender affirming care? Like, are there any red flags from a doctor or something that they would say that they should maybe kind of say, okay, I need to talk to someone?
Yeah. Yes.
We would hope so.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, like the rest of life, you need to trust your instincts. You need to trust your gut. And if your gut is telling you there's something off, whether it's just in terms of researching that office, whether it is during your initial encounter, whether it's in subsequent encounters, if something's telling you this is not right, specifically in gender affirming care, I've met too many people who feel like they're kind of committed and they're like, well, I might as well go through with this. Think about something as intense as facial feminization surgery or bottom surgery. There's really no takebacks on that. And so, well, I already have insurance authorization. A lot of times I'll have patients say, and they're like, but I'm not so comfortable. I'm like, you can't do that. You have to protect yourself because no one else will. So first and foremost, trusting your gut instinct. I've heard a lot of talk about, well, if you go to an office and one person misgenders you, that means that office doesn't respect you. Now, that could be true, but also doesn't necessarily mean it's true. A lot of people are doing their best.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that training. We certainly have that training for all of our staff members, but it still happens.
Right.
And it really is a question of once you bring that to the attention of either that doctor or their office leadership, what's their response?
Right.
And that's the key that I think should be the red flag. If they're saying, oh yeah, you got misgendered and don't worry about it. Like it's not a big deal. Yeah, just shh. Okay, that's a red flag.
Right.
That's like, oh, okay. Thank you so much for your time. But again, if you get misgendered, anything else, which some oh, we don't care about pronouns here, something like that along those lines.
Right.
And you bring that to the leadership's attention, you bring it to the surgeon's attention, and that's met with an appropriate and respectful response, and typically a quick response.
Right.
That, if anything, can be more comforting to say, this person is going to stand up for me. This person is going to make sure that I'm going to stay safe. And so no one's perfect.
Right.
Patients aren't perfect. Doctors aren't perfect. The offices aren't perfect. No one's perfect. And all right, I'm never going to claim to be that. But really the red flag is going to be if small or large mistakes happen, something aggression. We've had issues where someone in the waiting room is hateful to that other person in the waiting room. Okay. I would love to say that I wish I could protect against that. I can't.
Right.
I can't. There's humans all over the place.
Right.
This is a world. And so what I can protect is the response that happened in that unfortunate situation, which was clear and without mistake in terms of where our priorities lie. And so that's really when someone's looking for that office, that's something that I think they should look out for.
Right. Because what are you doing in your office and in your team to make sure that happens?
So in terms of the core group, most importantly, we need to make sure that philosophically everyone understands what we're doing and why we're doing it. And there's agreement, meaning this isn't a choice.
Yes.
Our gender diverse individuals are not coming in because they want to. They have no choice in this. There's a truth that they understand, and they need to go and get these treatments. This is not fun. This is not something that's cool. This is pretty horrible. Depending on which surgical procedure, hormone therapy, you're changing every aspect of how your body works. this is not a pleasant experience. The
Yeah.
ending or the goal is extremely pleasant, but
the process.
the process is not.
Yeah.
And so having providers around us that understands that, that's the first step.
Yeah.
You have to surround yourself with people who are just as passionate.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I've been fortunate enough to have those people around me.
Yeah.
And then from outside, we think about, okay, you can't, in a realistic fashion, make sure that every person along that care chain is going to be that passionate. But we can make sure that we have regular training, understanding why pronouns make such a big deal here.
Right.
And some people are like, oh, what's the big deal? Just pronouns. And I'll just use whatever it is. And like, no, it doesn't.
It's misgendering someone.
Yeah, that may work for you.
Right.
And for me, if someone mispronounced my name or calls me on the phone and calls me Miss Abie Mendelsohn, it's funny to me. It's not funny to everyone.
Right.
And so understanding that just because that's not important to me, doesn't mean it's not important to you. And so if that office staff member can't get that through, then they don't get to be part of a care process. And so, mistakes happen. No problem. Let's apologize. Let's learn from that. Let's grow and let's get better. But making sure that we have those conversations often is really, I think, the core way that we create a protective environment.
Yeah. I can see the passion you have.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. That you want to make sure that they're taken care of.
I mean, it's a vulnerable time.
Yeah.
Anyone who's gone through any medical procedure, any medical treatment for that matter, you are sometimes literally naked, both physically and emotionally.
Right.
We don't get much more vulnerable than seeking medical care, and we have to respect that.
Right.
Yeah.
So picking the provider is really important.
Yeah. Picking sometimes, again, word of mouth is helpful. A lot of our guests on this show have really discussed the importance of support from within the community, trusting that community, and then going there. But sometimes, listen, people change. People, you never know. What one person might have a good experience, you might not, and that's okay.
Right.
You just have to make sure that you advocate for yourself.
Right. And that you feel comfortable in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So along the same lines about the patients.
Yeah.
So how do you help them decide whether it's surgery, whether it's voice therapy or a combination? Like how does that, what does that conversation look like?
And it's very interesting because that conversation you would think is always the same. Like I do this surgery for vocal fem, I do this surgery for vocal mask, and these are the alternatives, and and it can be thought of a very kind of pathway discussion where in fact it hardly ever is.
Right.
And that's one of the many reasons why I love what I get to do. The conversation usually starts with the individual and the patient saying what they believe they're here for. Meaning, I heard you do vocal fem surgery, so that's what I'm here for. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And I do that. And I love doing
Let's
that.
talk about it.
Let's talk about that.
Right.
And really understanding, first and foremost, what vocal surgery can and cannot do.
Okay.
Understanding where they are, what they're trying to achieve, and going from there. So it's really more of a educational / listening session. So we start with that. And then I try to eliminate any fears that they have during that consultation. Usually I start with saying, don't worry about me determining if you're a candidate. A lot of people come in like, I hope I qualify. It's like, I'm like, that's not, it's not
credit.
It's not what we're doing here. Right. Everything that's appropriate for you will be available to you.
Right.
Let's understand there is nothing without risk. And whether it's risk, surgical complications will happen. Maybe you don't get what you're looking for. Maybe all of a sudden you thought you needed vocal surgery and didn't understand the issue was in resonance, which is voice therapy issue. And now after vocal surgery, you're worse.
Right.
You're not better. That's not my job. My job isn't to sign you up for surgery. My job is to help and protect you. And so there really isn't a matter of how do I determine what's best for them. It's understanding where are those needs and what are the tools that are best suited to address those needs.
Yeah. So it's an all-encompassing approach.
Absolutely.
For sure. So kind of looking at the community and representation, how do you think the medical field needs to grow in order to really kind of meet the gender diverse community where they are?
Yeah. A lot. It really does. I think right now we're in an exciting time where it is in vogue to have these discussions at our conferences. Conferences devoted to just general ENT is finally having representation in terms of what it means to be a gender affirming provider and care. So from that standpoint, we are certainly headed in the right direction. However, I fear that there's still a lot of perhaps thought that this is a good way to get busy surgically. Like, facial feminization. You can do a nose job and you can do a chin work and you can do all these things. And I love doing all that stuff. I was trained in either plastic surgery or ENT where we learned all these things. And, this person wants me to do all of them at the same time. Let me go ahead and do that. And they're not really understanding how that plays a role in the care of that person.
Right.
And so I think there's still a lot of room to grow for the medical community to truly understand our role in the treatment. And these, again, we've talked about this in past episodes. These are not patients in the classic sense of the word. They're not coming with a disease for us to cure.
Right.
That's completely wrong. We are not fixing anything.
Right.
We are helping them express who they truly are.
Right.
And it's a big slant on the traditional Western medical pathway, which is we diagnose, we operate or give a medication, and then you're fixed. And so all of that is something I still think that needs to come to light. And then from a practical standpoint, the red tape that's still defined not by the insurance companies, but by medical associations and terminology. We've gone a long way, thankfully.
Right.
The prior terms that were used for gender diverse or transgender individuals, thankfully, are no longer used.
Right.
Not even gonna to respect those phrases enough to repeat them.
Right.
But every so often, we're getting a diagnosis code through the office with a pretty hateful term slapped right onto the end of it, because that still is what automatically populates. The fact that hasn't gone away just is embarrassing, because those documents get mailed automatically to the patients too. And they have to see that. And so we've heard
kind of reliving that thing over and over
we're
again.
traumatizing.
Yeah.
And so that's all part of that medical growth that has to happen within the community as a whole, because we need to do a better job. We really do.
So if a patient was going to a plastic surgeon to do what you do,
yes,
what advice would you, or what would you say?
Boy, yeah. I've heard some really crazy stories where plastic surgeons, or sometimes not just a general surgeon, meaning they don't even have the subspecialty training, operating on areas of the body that they just don't have the experience or the know-how to make sure that things go perfectly. When we think about a surgery like a tracheal shave or Adam's apple reduction, still it continues to be lumped into facial feminization procedures. We're going to do your hairline and your forehead and the nose and your cheekbones and your lip and your chin, and then we're going to throw in your larynx or your voice box while we're at it. We're
we're working our way down.
Why don't you go all the way down to the toes while you're at it? It's what? How did that? Now there's history as to how that happened, but just because there's history in terms of the progression of gender affirming surgery doesn't mean that's the way it's going. So you want the best. Everyone wants the best for themselves, for their loved ones. And if you want the best surgery, you need to go someone who's dedicated to that area, not only in terms of the knowledge and the inner workings of that area of the body, but also being able to continue to hone and optimize that system after the surgery.
Right.
And so again, tracheal shave surgery, which is weird because it's not on the trachea, nor is it really shaving, but whatever. I love that. It's a surgery on the voice box. And so if you're going to a surgeon, let's say a plastic surgeon, who's never examined the vocal cords, let alone had training, how on earth is that person going to care for your vocal cords? That is part of the structure that they're operating on.
Right.
You know, it's mind-boggling that it continues to occur. Now, in all honesty, it's a little bit on us, right? Laryngologists, we are not coming to the table as a field saying, hands off the larynx, hands off the voice box. This is ours. And so a little bit, it's a free-for-all still.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as a community, we need to do a better job again in that.
And the vocal cords are real small.
They're tiny.
Little itty bitty.
It's
Living space. That's my favorite.
Infinite power. And they really do have infinite cosmic power in terms of what they're able to do.
Right.
We think about vocalists and some incredible talents, you know, that we pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a concert ticket. And we think about a really powerful voice actor, you know, can bring in so much emotion, or just, you know, human contact. These vocal cords, tiny, less than an inch,
right,
changes our world.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So to close it out, 2 last questions. So what are the services that you provide?
Perfect. So I provide anything within my small box.
Okay.
So it's right here.
Just the neck area.
Yeah, just right in there.
Right.
And so in the gender affirming space, it really does limit itself to inside the voice box.
Okay.
When we think about the vocal cords themselves, so vocal feminizing procedures and vocal masculinizing procedures.
Okay.
And so that includes the entire gender diverse spectrum. So if someone, no matter where they are, where their pronouns are, which are important, there's sometimes a need to go in one direction or the other. Sometimes, again, someone's starting off with an extremely feminine voice and their goals are not to reach a masculine voice, but just to get out of that wholly dominant feminine voice quality and get into an androgynous zone. That's an achievable goal and result. How do we do that? Well, that's a good question. Obviously, surgery is involved, making sure that person gets into an experienced and licensed speech language pathologist whenever possible. We have incredible injection options right now for vocal masculinization. So within the voice, a lot of options. And then outside the vocal cords themselves, we think about the structure. And so from a tracheal shave standpoint, the Adam's apple surgery is something that really proud of in terms of our ability to address that area without scars on the neck. Endoscopic approaches continue to really push that field forward and understanding how to do the maximum surgery in the safest way possible and leaving no evidence of our work because it's just no one's business.
Right.
And then finally, when we think about tracheal shave being from a feminizing treatment option, we're really starting to be in a very exciting opportunity to start seeing some of the opposite or reverse tracheal shaves. And that's an Adam's apple creation or thyroid cartilage augmentation. That's a surgery where we can literally form an Adam's apple. So we don't have to have our non-binary or trans men having facial hair. I like facial hair.
Right.
If you're a trans man, you don't have to wear a beard.
Right.
You can choose to wear a beard.
Right.
So creating an Adam's apple is something that has just been really exciting to see, kind of that frontier, the edge of medicine. That's really kind of where we're devoting the vast majority of our time.
And you're on the edge of that medicine.
I love it.
Didn't you do like the 4th surgery in the world?
Yeah, we're able to.
This is kind of a big deal.
Stop making me.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and
Just so you know, guys, it's a big deal.
It's just a big deal. We were very proud to do that. That was a surgery that thankfully went very well.
Yeah.
And it was exciting because if you're only doing the 2nd or 3rd described surgery, you don't really have a lot of roadmaps for that. And so how to do that effectively, appropriately. We were very excited to actually be able to combine that surgery with a vocal surgery at the same time. So it's like a 2-for-1. It was just a really, really exciting day. Now that's behind us, we'll kind of continue to look forward. How do we move on from that momentum and take that forward? So it's just, always moving, always trying to see how we can do things better, whether it's new procedures, whether it's taking old procedures and change them so that they're more effective.
Right.
We're seeing that with vocal fem surgery. The technique continues to evolve and change and improve. That's really, really cool.
Right.
The surgery that we're doing now, although it's called the same thing, is different techniques, different suture materials, different suture positions. All these things are making such a huge difference. Again, improving how we're delivering our care, our evaluations, both pre and post-op. It's constantly changing and growing, and it's a lot of fun.
Speaking of fun,
yeah,
the work you do is really empathic. You
Yes.
kind of take on a lot of what they're feeling and they're doing. But what do you do for fun? What do you do to kind of take care of yourself?
Oof, that's a great question.
Right.
How do I take care of myself? Not as well as I should.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot better job.
Good.
As my team will attest, I actually been eating lunch these days.
Oh, that's great. No more oats.
Yeah,
That's
so good news for me,
Good.
So I've been doing that, taking care of my health for the first time in a long time, actually going to see a doctor. It sounds strange,
That's
but
great.
we are the worst
Doctors don't see
patients.
doctors.
No, we don't. We have a hard time trusting anyone.
That's fair.
So taking care of that, and then spiritually, just really trying to maximize the family time. For me, that's my recharge. My batteries are just, one-on-one time with any one of my amazing children, having the entire family together, taking trips whenever possible. For me, that's the massive recharge. And, it's really exciting because this work that I get to do, I get to be a source of pride for them.
Yeah.
And they have expressed how much they've enjoyed seeing what we're doing here, how we're growing from there. So it's this symbiotic loop that, I think everyone's winning from.
I like what you did there, symbiotic.
That's how I do.
Let's
keep it going.
All right. Well, just so you know, the interview's over now. You're out the hot seat.
That's what I'm
But
talking
I really
about.
appreciate
Let's
you
go.
letting me switch roles.
I don't want to do this again.
You might have to, but I really appreciate it, Abie, and I know that so does your audience. So thank you for the work that you do.